Just about everyone knows how beloved Pokemon spin-offs on the Nintendo DS are, like the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and Pokemon Ranger games. But there's another spin-off I played as a kid that I think most people haven't even heard of, and it's called Pokémon Trozei. It was released internationally all the way back in 2006. This game doesn't get a lot of recognition because it's admittedly a lot simpler than the other spin-offs I mentioned, but that's fine. This is just a fun, lightweight puzzle game with a special place in my heart, and I wanted to talk about it for a bit since it seems like no one else has. So, without further ado, let's get into the game. In Pokémon Trozei, we play as a secret agent named Lucy Fleetfoot, and we're tasked with taking down the Phobos Battalion, an evil team that's stolen a bunch of Pokemon to harness their energy to power a secret weapon. How does that work? Why do they want to do that? I beat the game and I still don't really know, and it doesn't matter. By using a nifty gadget called the Trozei Beamer, we can free Pokemon from the Phobos Battalion by doing these really fun tile matching puzzle games. When playing, the main rule you've got to keep in mind is 4 in a row and you're good to go, just like the commercial said.
You can shift and slide your favorite Pokemon in this new action-packed puzzle game. Line up 4 in a row and you're good to go. Pokémon Trozei, rated E for everyone.
Sorry about that awful quality. This is the best video I could find. So yeah, 4 in a row and you're good to go. You slide rows and columns on the board until you match 4 of the same Pokemon, and after that, you've got a Trozei chance, or in other words, a chance to continue a combo. You have a few seconds to match 3 this time, and after that, keep doing matches of 2 until you run out of time or Pokemon to match. A skilled player will strategize their matches in a way that'll get them to clear the entire board, which is really satisfying. Occasionally, some Dittos randomly drop that help out, since they have the unique ability of being able to match with any other Pokemon. And that's just really cool how they integrated Ditto's transformability into the gameplay. If you don't match Pokemon fast enough, your board will get filled up, and that's game over. Trozei has an adventure mode with a very bare-bones storyline. In it, we progress through levels to free Pokemon from the Phobos Battalion, and eventually have boss fights with the battalion's generals. We've got Bug Guy, Boot Guy, main from Cyberpunk Edgerunners, Lucy Fleetfoot but Evil, and Ball Guy. Every time we fight one, we do get a pretty neat opening cutscene where we infiltrate their moving bases called the Phobos Mobiles. But aside from that, they're not really that important. Our fights with them add some gimmicks to the gameplay that really ramp up the difficulty. They'll throw rocks into the board that take up a bunch of space and interrupt your matches. And they'll also black out the board occasionally, and this was the most difficult gimmick of all for me. I cannot tell the difference between any of these silhouettes. It all just looks like Jigglypuff from above to me. And this combined with the increasing speed that Pokemon get dropped on the screen caused a lot of game overs for me. You need some pretty fast reaction time to get those matches in, and things got frustrating to the point where I started questioning whether the gameplay was unfair or if I was just bad. And I know it's probably the latter, but I don't like admitting that.
Skill issue.
Anyways, after the generals, we face the final boss, Baron Phobos. This guy does not feel intimidating at all. His level though, very difficult. Took me many attempts to beat this one. After defeating him, he goes, "Ay, yay, yay, yay." After defeating him, his ship falls on a volcano and it erupts and I think he's dead. And yeah, that's the end of the adventure mode. If you want more gameplay outside of the main story, there's an endless mode and some multiplayer modes. If you really want to be a completionist, you can complete a Pokédex that records every Pokemon you've matched. Some are rarer than others, so you'll have to replay levels to collect them all. You'll probably also be spending a lot of time at a special location called Who's Den, with a guy that'll let you play with his balls if you give him money.
Bad touch, stranger danger.
This guy just offers special levels with more rare Pokemon for the Pokédex. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up everything about Pokémon Trozei on the DS. I'm still a big fan of its gameplay, but my favorite thing about it has gotta be all the amazing chibi Pokemon icons. It turns out that all of those icons and a lot of the other art in this game were designed by one person, the game's art director, James Turner. If you don't know him, here's a fun fact. James eventually became the art director for Pokemon Sword and Shield, and is actually the creator of many of your favorite Pokemon. He was even involved in the most recent Pokemon Scarlet and Violet games, creating the designs of Tatsugiri, Dondozo, and Professor Seda and Turo, which is just awesome. But I'm getting a bit sidetracked. Let's get back to Trozei. Although it looks like James didn't work on the next installment of this game, the style of his Pokemon icons have cemented their legacy in the series. The sequel, Pokemon Battle Trozei, came out as a Nintendo eShop exclusive in 2014. It was released a bit after Pokemon X and Y came out, so there's new generations of Pokemon art to admire. it's abandoned having any story and instead opted to have the puzzle games represent Pokemon battles. They've also changed some things about the gameplay. Where the first Trozei had a more rigid grid and column sliding system, it looks like Battle Trozei has a more flexible tile swapping system where you can move Pokemon to any spot on the board. And it's no longer Connect 4 and you're good to go. Now, it's Match 3 or more and you're good to go. And as much as I like this change, I wish they could have at least come up with something that rhymed. Unfortunately, the 3DS eShop is shutting down permanently at the end of March 2023, which means that if you haven't bought Battle Trozei by then, you'll never be able to download it. Legally. While there hasn't been any new Trozei games since the first two, their development studio, Genius Sonority, has continued to create similar games that you can play today. For example, there's Pokemon Shuffle, released in 2015, and Pokemon Cafe Remix, released in 2020. They're very accessible, both being available for free on mobile, with Cafe Remix also being available on the Switch. And aside from the microtransaction stuff that I'm not a fan of, they're pretty good. And just look at how familiar the gameplay and icons look. It is a shame that the Trozei name seems to be gone for good, but I think that its spirit lives on through these fun Pokemon puzzle games and their adorable art styles.